the same time, we also need to train them so that they can create the best value and pursue the strategy and purpose that fits society. So that's a dual approach there again. At the level of senior management, so the management that AI can take, and which I already demonstrated a little bit, is like, for example, as an advisor, where they collect data, summarize it, see patterns across all departments, and can put this in formats and formats are already there, templates, that is easy to communicate to the board. So in that sense, they're an advisor. So when AI becomes part of a governance board, that's the role it should play. It's that kind of advisory role. But again, at the end of the day, responsibility lies with the human. Okay. Let me find do you see a day when we have self-improving algorithms, since reinforcement learning seeks optimization, or is it already here? Well, self-improving is already happening. So that's the unsupervised learning. Neural networks, so we provide examples, but they start looking at deeper layers. They make connections that we don't actually know anymore. So it's unsupervised. But the thing is, there are boundaries there as well. If it's too complex, AI as we know it today is unreliable. Like, for example, if we would, and we try to use it in research, but if you want to study the cosmos, which is complete chaos, those prediction models can be very unreliable. So that's way out of reach. So the self-improvement you can see best in structured situations, where an example is, for example, in hospitals with treatment. So research is happening where you see that when the sample size is one patient, and we have the history of the kind of medication the person had to take, how the medication relates to the outcome variable, which is how does the patient feel? Is he or she progressing, getting worse, getting better? That those data that AI is actually, and this is the unsupervised learning, is able to pick up in ways that are pretty accurate and actually can put out prediction models there in terms of like, yeah, keep using this medication or something else is needed. So they're improving themselves even on such small data sets. Self-improving in the way you mean it, I think, means also that you have a kind of self-awareness, and that's lacking. So it's always going to be within the bounded condition. And there's an MIT professor who actually tries to apply this concept of bounded rationality, for example, that we are irrational. People have biases because we're not 100% rational. And bounded rationality refers to that concept. And in a way, AI doesn't have that because it tries to optimize. So it, in a way, it assumes we can make something perfect because we optimize, bring error rate to 0. So we always look for the optimal model. But sometimes when it comes down to human compliance and acceptance, you need a suboptimal model in the eyes of AI. Suboptimal meaning it's a compromise. It's a consensus between what humans value and what the optimal model is in terms of statistics. And that's a sense of awareness. And that kind of self-improvement AI doesn't have. In my view, how AI is used in management is still dependent on the ethics of the people in the management. Do you agree? Yes, very much so, actually. So again, this is why I am arguing to also educate STEM graduates, any other graduate, in sharpening the skills we already have as humans. And one skill is ethical judgments, right or wrong. Intuitively, we make mistakes, but we also make a lot of good decisions because we feel it's right or wrong. AI doesn't have that. And we can make sense of that. So I always put ethics training as part of leadership training as well. And that people see that people think in different ways sometimes about ethics, but they can make sense of it ultimately. So we need to put that on the education schedule, and we need to train our leaders. And of course, it's important for leadership to try to create the best value for most people involved. That's why I also say one of the 2 leadership types for the future is going to be purpose-driven leadership, because we need to know what kind of value are we trying to achieve and for what reason and who benefits from it. And that answering that question requires a moral sense of awareness. And it's also important because that focus then will help us to select the data we need in order to have optimal prediction models that will be optimal in light of the purpose we want to achieve. So yes, it's definitely needed. Okay, I believe AI is here to stay. How can our government play a role to educate our business leaders on the value? This also applies to SME leadership because they employ 70% of the workforce. The lack of talent is a challenge, and how can we overcome this challenge? Well, I think the first step is already, these steps are already being taken, motivating people to get the technical skills. And I would say for the majority, it's really going to be up to the level of tech savviness, that we understand what AI is, in what kind of forms we can use it. And it doesn't need to mean that you need to become a professional coder, but at least understanding the value that AI can provide. Because I think that's an important task of a government and any leader, is to really make AI meaningful to people. Why do we use it? And like Steve Jobs said, sometimes you have technology, but it doesn't mean you have to use it. It needs to serve a purpose. So the authorities are there to really they have to make that meaningful. They have to communicate that, and they have to show it, that it's meaningful. And get these skills. But like I said, in addition, people will start using AI. Organizations will employ, they don't only adopt it, they employ AI. And I see in my work as a consultant as well, I see that they adopt AI, but then the difficult part starts.